Welcome back everyone, it's Garland here bringing you another Neverwinter video, and today we're going to be diving into the Mod 13 Scourge Warlock Hellbringer build. We're going to be talking about the AoE and single target. We're still using the loadout system. This is going to be for Hellbringer, AoE, and single target. As always, full disclaimer here, this isn't the ultimate build. This is just meant, of course, for you to use as a guideline, and you can tinker with it and base it off of your playstyle. Everyone plays differently. Some things may not be for you. Also, this is an endgame build. This is not a beginner's build. This is something that you're going to want to strive to achieve. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. First and foremost, your attributes, they haven't changed since the dawn of the Warlock. They literally haven't changed. You're going to put Constitution and Charisma across the board. Let's go ahead and jump right into the gear. Now for the Hellbringer AoE, you can choose pretty much any setup you would like. Gear doesn't really matter as far as what you're going to be choosing. For instance, I choose to run the full primal set. So I have the primal helmet, the primal chestplate, the primal arms, and the primal boots. And now with Mod 13, you have the vivification process, so you will eventually want to vivify your primal. Now your weapon, again, it's going to be your choice. If you want to run the primal on your AoE loadout, that's fine. If you only have one loadout and you can't afford to have multiple loadouts, then you're probably going to have the primal and you're going to have to switch your weapon enchantments around, which is, going to cost you a lot of gold in the long run. I choose to run the Pilgrim set as far as my AoE loadout goes, so that's going to be the Deathbringer as well as the Death Reader. This is the Pilgrim set. The Pilgrim set bonus, I believe, is 1,000 to each stat if you're in a party of 5. No, I lied. That's not correct at all. This is going to be at the start of combat. Your damage and outgoing healing will be increased by 1% for every enemy faced. That's why I choose to use this set. I believe the other set is going to be I don't know. There's so many sets in Mod 13, guys. Is this the Pilgrim set? Yes, this is the Pilgrim set. So I choose to run the Pilgrim set because it's as more enemies you face, it's going to get your damage up to a 10% bonus. So that's why I'm choosing the Pilgrim set specifically for AoE purposes. Now, of course, as far as your weapon enchantment goes, we are going to still be using a lightning. This is 100% built on AoE. This is just the AoE loadout. As far as your undergarments, the upper primal and the lower primal coming in Mod 13, you're going to want to pick these up, especially the upper primal, as your daily powers are going to be 3% more damage. The 3-piece set, we are still using the Baphomet set, the Demogorgon set, whatever you like to call it. So that's going to be your necklace, your belt, and then your Shard of Orcus. There still, unfortunately, just isn't anything in the game that is going to be better than this right now as far as damage output goes. Your rings, that's a different story. There's a plethora of rings out there now that you can choose to use. I'm still using a Beast Slayer as well as an Undead Slayer. However, if you're lucky enough to get some of the new Mod 13 rings, the Grave Striker, there's the Ring of Offense that comes from Makos. There's a plethora of other rings that are available to you, so that just depends on your RNG and how you personally want to build your character. Now, as far as your reinforcements, nothing has changed. You're going to use action point gain on the 4 over here. And the 4 on the left side is going to be up to you if you want to use power, if you want to make up that statistic with armor pen, or if you want to put crit strike. That's completely up to you. I always choose to stack power on the left side. Now your active artifact, I still use the Sigil of the Devoted so I can spam my Brood of Hadar or my Tyrannical Curse. That's up to you as well. You can use a debuffing artifact if you want to be more supportive for your team. But if you're just going AoE solely built for DPS, I still like using the Sigil. Your other 2 artifacts are going to be completely up to you. Remember, as always, you need to balance your own statistics accordingly. You need to maximize as much power as you can while maintaining as close to 100% crit as you can, as well as 85% armor penetration. So as far as your other artifacts go, this is completely up to you. You will have to balance your own statistics. For instance, I use the Kessel Sphere right now for the power armor pen, and I use the Wizard Sigil, the Control Wizard Sigil, for power crit. That's the same thing with all of your enchantment, guys. I choose to run Demonics in my rings, and then I stack Radiance everywhere else. If you really want to use Darks for lifesteal or tri-statted enchantments, if you can afford them, such as Black Ice, that's up to you. I choose full power. So I have Radiance in all my offensive and then Radiance in all my defensive for the additional HP to coincide with Paladin's Aura of Courage. So that should wrap it up for the gear. Your armor enchantment, that could be, personal preference as well. I choose to run a Bark Shield. However, you can run a Soul Forge. However, in the end game, especially in Cradle, chances are, if you die in Cradle, you're going to be permanently dead if you fall off the platform. Soul Forge, yeah, if you happen to die to an AoE or something, you're going to get an extra life per se, but I like to rock the Bark Shield still, just for the additional damage absorb that it does. So I believe that does wrap it up for the gear. I'm currently, I believe, 18,369 gear score. We know gear score isn't important, but I do like to maximize as much as I can. Right now, the only thing I'm missing is utility slots. My utility slots aren't rank 14 because I still use, Dragon, Horde, Fae, and Quartermaster. There's no reason to max those out. So I don't like to waste, the ultimate enchanting stones on utility slots unless I put darks in there for movement speed. So that's going to wrap it up for the gear. Let's go ahead and move on to the build itself. Now for the build, this is going to be 100% AoE. So we are going to take 3 out of 3 for toughness to coincide again with Paladin's Aura of Courage. We're going to take 3 out of 3 for crit chance, and then we're only going to put 1 point into Energizing Curse. Followed by 3 out of 3 for rituals for more encounter damage. We're going to take 5 out of 5 for determined casting for the 10% cooldown. Now, this is personal preference here. I still like to take Scornful Curse. It increases my Lesser Curse damage. This is, again, an AoE only build, so my Lesser Curse is always going off on surrounding enemies. This is going to do additional damage. I still personally like this. However, you don't have to take it. I mean, you can put those 3 points into your crit severity. That's completely up to you. Now, we are still running a human. That way we get the 3 extra points and we maximize our blood pack to deal additional damage based off our constitution. Now, up top, we're going to be taking 5 out of 5 for critical promise. This does scale with buffs now. That's why this is very important. We're going to take 5 out of 5 for gatekeepers for your hellish rebuke, and as well as you, if you like using Gates of Hell, then this is going to do more damage for that as well. 5 out of 5 for offering to the prisoner. That way, when you are killing AoE targets and you kill one, your damage is going to be increased by 5% for 15 seconds. Every time you move from pack to mobs, this should be basically up. Every time you kill a cursed target, you're going to get 5% DPS increase for 15 seconds. Well, if your group's fast enough, you're going to be going from pack of mobs to pack of mobs. This should be up almost all the time when you're clearing trash mobs, as long as you're getting the kill on your cursed target. We're going to take 5 out of 5 for Infernal Wrath, which is your lesser curse now also debuffs 5%, so very important to have. Now, AoE, you're going to be getting hit. So, especially if you're running Hellbringer, you're going to go in there, cast your Pillar of Power, you're going to get hit by some trash mobs. This is going to make them hell-touched, and it's going to increase the damage you do to a hell-touched mob by 10%. Now, of course, we're taking Executioner's Gift just for the bonus damage for at-wills as well as encounter powers. Now, I never used to take Killing Curse, however, now with the Warlock modifications, this does scale with buffs now. So when you're attacking a cursed target, you do an additional 25% of your weapon damage, which originally was complete dog shit. It didn't do anything. 25% of your weapon damage was like 500 damage, because the weapon damage on Warlock weapons specifically is already very low. Well, now this scales with buffs and everything, so now it actually does some decent damage. We're going to take Brutal Curse for strictly the reason of Tyrannical Curse. That way it's going to buff your Tyrannical Curse to do a little more damage, so when you pop your TC, you're going to have an additional debuff on those mobs, and just thus leading to more AoE damage. And then finally, we are going to take the Capstone of Creeping Death, where you should all be familiar with Creeping Death. That's going to wrap it up for the build. I'll leave it up here for an additional second if you want to pause the video. Moving right along, we're going to go into the boons. I'm not going to discuss the boons. However, if you want to pause the video at any time, these are going to be the same boons for AoE as well as single target. So we have Sharandar, strictly go across the bottom. We have Dreadring, Icewind Dale, Underdark, Tyranny of Dragons, the Maze Engine, Elemental Evil, Storm King's Thunder, the Cloaked Ascendancy, and then finally wrapping up with the Jungles of Shult. So that's going to be the boons. The boons have literally not changed for the entirety of, the Warlock's lifespan. There really isn't many changes. As campaigns go on, we just add the new ones to our repertoire of old ones. If you go and watch any old Warlock video I've done, these boons don't change. Moving right along, we're going to jump into the companions now. So our summon companion is going to be the Shulten Tiger. Obviously for its active bonus. And the start, so your start of combat, you're going to get the 5% damage increase for 25 seconds. This is basically a upgraded version of the Con Artist, Sellsword, and Rebel Mercenary. It has a debuff that stacks with, all the other debuffs, but you're going to get 5% damage increase for 25 seconds at the start of combat. So a lot of people have migrated over to this. They've changed from the previous three. The only downfall with this is that it has a necklace slot, whereas, the Con Artist has, 3 ring slots. However, this also has 3 offensive slots. So there's pros and cons to both. If you're lucky enough you're able to afford the Shulton Tiger, then I would suggest you get it. But if you want to stay with your Con Artist or Sellsword or Rebel Mercenary, that's up to you. You know how hard it is to gear out a Sellsword, but if you've already geared one out, that's up to you what you want to change to. You are going to gain additional 5% damage with the Shulton Tiger, so it is an upgrade, but it's personal preference as well. Obviously, we're going to go with the 3 Bonding Runestones, still best in slot. You want to get those to rank 14 as soon as you can. And then we are personally using 2 Bronzewood rings as well as a Bold necklace. So whatever gear you put down here is completely up to you. If you want to talk about best in slot, then you want to get the +5 Grave Striker or the other +5 ring coming from Mod 13. They're gonna give you more of a bonus because for whatever reason those rings are proccing off your companion. So if you're lucky enough to get one, then by all means use that. But you can put whatever rings that suit your needs as far as your statistics go. Remember, you gotta balance your statistics. I'm using strictly all brutals, so we have 6 brutals in here, which are going to be power and crit. So you can use Black Ice in here, you can use Pure Radiance in here, it's up to you. Whatever you want to boost as far as your statistics go is going to be up to you. Now as far as other active companions go, I'm still personally using the Siege Master. You can upgrade your Siege Master to an Alpha Company if you really want 1% more. The Alpha Company I believe is 5%, the Siege Master is 4%. That's completely up to you. Now, you'll notice I'm only using 2 Archons here, and that's going to be personal preference as well. I use the Air Archon, so you're doing more damage to anything that doesn't have full HP, and then I choose to use the Earth Archon. For when you're full HP, you're getting an extra 6% in damage, and then of course you get the Archon bonuses between these. Now if you want to substitute the Earth Archon for a Fire Archon, that's completely up to you. The final active, we are going back to the Wild Hunt Rider. I don't want to go into too much details. If you have a Wild Hunt Rider, then equip it again and you will understand why. So we're going with that. That's the first time I'm releasing that information. Before that, there was only maybe 3 people in the entire game, and that was the 2 other people that I told already. Well, now I'm officially releasing that information. We're going back to the Wild Hunt Rider. Go and test it out for yourself. You will see why. Moving right along with the mounts, I have Dominant Force for the 4,000 power. However, you can use, if you're only lucky enough to have 1 legendary mount, then you can use, if you have a Tenzers, you can use recovery instead of power. That's completely up to you. The same thing with the combat power. If you want to use the T-Rex for its debuffing aspect, or if you want to use the Tenzers for its buffing, it's completely up to you what you want to use. I currently use the T-Rex for AoE and power. Now, as far as the mount bonuses go, well, I mean, they're not the best. I really wish they would overhaul the system and give us some more, options available. So right now we're using Protector's Camaraderie, Cavalry's Warning, Shepherd's Devotion, Artificer's Persuasion, and Assassin's Covenant. Now, you can swap these however you see fit. If you want to put Magistrate's Patience in here for that DOT effect, if you want to use Gladiator's Gal for the movement speed, it's up to you guys. It's personal preference what you want to use as far as your insignia bonuses go. Now, as far as your insignias, I like to stack, power, armor pen, and crit just to make up bonus stats. So that's, again, up to you. You need to balance your own statistics and go from there. That's going to wrap it up, I believe, for the AoE. As far as your powers go, we can just look at it very briefly. You're going to be using Pillar of Power, Fiery Bolt, and Hadar's Grasp. And then with your personals of Flames of Empowerment and ACC. However, you can mix and match these if you so choose. I mean, I've seen people even toss in Prince of Hell for the Resistance Ignored and Lifesteal Chance. That's completely up to you. I like ACC and Flames of Empowerment. And then I run Hadar's Grasp, Pillar of Power, and Fiery Bolt strictly for AoE. It works well, especially with the Lightning enchantment still proccing. I've seen people sub in Dread Theft, you know, which is fine. I just don't like being stationary with Dread Theft. But hey, it's up to you. It's personal preference, whatever. You know, there's no static rotation for AoE. It's go in there, pop your Tyrannical Curse, and kill everything. So I believe that's going to wrap it up for the AoE aspect. We're going to jump into the single target side of things now. Alright guys, now as far as Hellbringer single target goes, there isn't very major differences as far as the gear goes. You're going to substitute a few things here and there, but for the most part it's going to be the same stuff. So right off the bat, I'm still using the Rex helmet just for the power. The longer you stay in combat, you're going to gain power up to 2 minutes. Some people like to use the Rex chest as well. I just have the primal on. You can switch to the Rex chest. I do have one. I don't see any major difference. I don't like the Rex chest. That's very hard to say. The Rex chest. I don't like to use it because you're only going to get the 1500 power for, I believe it's either 5 or 10 seconds at the start of combat. The Warlock is not very bursty. It takes a lot to build up the Warlock DPS. Now, coming in mod 13, this is a new item, the Eye Stalk Wrappers. You're going to want to get this. Your ranged powers do 3% more damage. So it's very important to get these. Now, as far as single target goes, this is where I use my primal set at. I will exalt these weapons once I get the materials. So if you want to exalt your primal set, if you're only using one weapon set, if you're using multiple weapon sets, then it's up to you if you want to exalt both of your weapon sets. So right now for single target, I'm using the primal set. If we go ahead and look at, you know, what weapon enchantment, the Fey Touched is pretty much best in slot. The raw percentile damage is going to outweigh crit severity. You're going to have people out there that still like using their Dread. You're still going to have people that like using their Vorpal. That's fine. If you guys are comfortable with that, then go for it. But the Fey Touched is going to produce more overall damage. I mean, the statistics, they don't lie. So the Fey Touched is what we're going to be going with as far as single target damage goes. Now, the one piece of gear that I have not got yet and you want to go for is going to be Boots of the Wild, which come from the tier 3 hunt, the Tyrant hunt in mod 13. If we go and look at it real quick, just so I can bring it up for you guys since I do not have it yet. If you navigate over to your collections, go over to the hunts tab, and this is the boots that you're going to eventually go for here. Boots of the Wild, it's your at-will powers do 3% more damage. So your single target Hellbringer, you're going to be spamming your Hellish Rebuke a lot. You get a lot of DPS from Hellish Rebuke. Well, this is going to increase that by 3%. So this item is 100% necessary to get if you're going to run Hellbringer for single target. Now, the only other difference for me personally is we're going to go ahead and change our Sigil of the Devoted to the Soulsight Crystal, which is going to gain 50% additional damage for your attacks, which works with, you know, pretty much everything that we use. So, yeah, why wouldn't you use this? I mean, if you really want to keep using the Sigil to spam your Brood of Hadar or your Gates of Hell, that's completely up to you. I like to use the Soulsight Crystal, even though you only get it for 10 seconds. You're going to do a lot of damage for 10 seconds. If you can time all the debuffs in the party, you'll be able to pump out some decent numbers. Everything else is the same as far as between the AoE and the single target build, other than a few modifications. Let's go ahead and jump right into the build itself. Not many changes here either. We're still taking 3 out of 3 for toughness, 3 out of 3 for crit chance, 1 out of 5 for energizing curse, 3 out of 3 for rituals, 5 out of 5 for casting, 5 out of 5 for blood pack, and then the only difference here is instead of taking the lesser curse AoE, we're going to go ahead and put those 3 points into the crit severity. Now the build itself, we're still going to take 5 out of 5 for critical promise, 5 out of 5 for gatekeepers. Again, your Hellish Rebuke, your DOT is going to do insane amounts of damage. You gain a lot of DPS from having gatekeepers empowerment. We are going to take Hell Touched. We're still going to take Infernal Wrath. 5 out of 5 for Killing Curse. 5 out of 5 for Executioner's Gift. 5 out of 5 for Brutal Curse, which is important for single target. That way you're getting the additional debuff with your Warlock's Curse. You want to make sure that you are casting Warlock's Curse about every 3 seconds on the boss. Then we are going to put 5 out of 5 for Murderous Flames. Now, Murderous Flames has been a broken, redheaded stepchild since the Warlock has been alive. It's gone through so many changes. It's gone through just so many nerfs, so many buffs, so many rebalances. A lot of people just stay away from it altogether. Now, as far as Hellbringer, single target, DPS, I like to take it, but it's very situational. It depends on what dungeon you're doing and what boss you're doing in that dungeon. There's a lot of misconceptions with how this even works because tooltips in Neverwinter aren't very good. So if you have a dungeon and a boss in that dungeon that is 100% single target, for instance, the first boss of Fangbreaker Island, the Manticore, there's no adds. Murderous Flames is going to do all of its damage plus an additional 30% of its damage. That's why you take it for single target. Now, the first boss of Tomb of the Nine Gods, Orcus, he has a bunch of adds that spawn with him, right? He has a bunch of those little zombies. So Killing Flames is going to split that damage among those mobs. That's how it works. If you have 100% single target and you cast your Killing Flames, you're going to do that bonus damage. However, if there's a AoE situation with the boss, then that damage is going to be split. That's one of the downfalls of the Warlock for single target DPS, is just Murderous Flames by itself. Because Killing Flames, as far as Hellbringer goes, is supposed to be our single target heavy hitter, if you want to call it. But it's a very situational thing. Plus, the mechanics of Killing Flames already hurt it. Killing Flames does not do its full potential damage unless the mob or the boss is diminishing HP. The sweet spot for Killing Flames is about 50%. So when the boss is 50% or less HP is when you're going to start seeing Killing Flames really do a lot of damage. And it sucks. It sucks that that's how the mechanics of, this work, and that's why, that's one of the reasons why the Warlocks can't really compete with other classes, because our number one encounter power, specifically speaking for Hellbringer, is not very good. It's very situational, and you have to learn how to use it appropriately. So that is the build. If you want to take a minute there, I'll leave it up. As far as the boons go for single target, we don't need to go over it, as well as the companions or the mounts. Everything is the same. That's actually going to conclude the video, guys. There's not much really to go over as far as single target. So that's going to be your overall guide and build for Hellbringer, AoE, as well as single target. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. As always, if you have any questions, please be sure to leave me a comment below. I try to read all of them and answer all of them. If you have any questions, go ahead and hit the comment. make sure you like the video. If you're new here, toss me the subscribe. You know, I gotta sell out a little bit, right? I know this video is a little long. Usually the build videos do go a little long. I will also be putting out a Soulbinder single target build because it's been requested a lot. If you want to compare the both in the current state of the game, Hellbringer single target versus Soulbinder single target, the damage is almost equal. The Soulbinder will pull ahead and out DPS the Hellbringer, but Hellbringer is 10 times easier to play. So as it sits right now, I'm playing Hellbringer both for AoE and single target, but keep in mind that Soulbinder single target will still out DPS Hellbringer, but it's not by much. So look for that video down the road here, and I'll see you guys in the next one.